then added, "No matter what." "Don't worry about sending Puny. Get me word and I'll get it there. We want to help as much as we can." Taylor hoped Florence would marry Connell. The Singers paid with money drawn on an Ohio bank, not with produce or species certificates. And Czech Singer was a Lowry, and the daughter of Colonel Gideon Morgan. "I know. Thank you, Mr. Taylor." Czech turned towards the door and Jim. "Mrs. Singer?" She turned back around. "He's in good hands, Czech." The store owner's stubble of new beard made him look more like a drunk than an affluent merchant. His head bobbed awkwardly, but the informality of address was an attempt to convey the depth of his feelings. "Yes, Nash, I know. Thank you." Czech turned again, nodded, not directly at Jim, but at the blue shirt sleeve holding the door. She walked towards the bright morning. Behind her, Nash barked, "Pack Mrs. Singer's coffee and nails." Czech staggered, overwhelmed with sunshine. It was still early in the planting season. The front of the store faced south and west, where the weather came from. She looked at the planks to get her bearings. Her rib cage was penned to a funnel by her corset. She feared for a moment she wouldn't be able to breathe. She gulped and reminded herself to take deeper breaths. That winter was over, and bodies need fresh air like houses and rugs. Jim slipped past her and was putting her last purchases into her wagon when she heard steps on the planks behind her. Words came in a shout before she turned. "You through, Mama?" Clifford was on her. Czech stepped back. "Yes, get the reins." The boy pulled himself to a full height. He hopped towards the hitching bar. Helping his mother was a treat. Czech glanced at Cliff. His hair needed a wash. Children get dirty. She reminded herself that's their nature. "Clifford, where's Puny?" she asked. "Visitin' in Niggertown." Talk about Puny wasn't what Clifford wanted. He wanted to show off for his mama. He unwrapped the reins. Czech thanked Jim as he went back into the store. She said to Cliff, "Don't say nigger. Your father and I don't like that." "Yes, ma'am." Cliff looked at his shoes. "Yes, ma'am, what?" "Yes, ma'am. Negro." "That's good, Clifford." Czech smiled with only her lips. She grabbed the side of the wagon. "We'll ride down and get him. He's been quiet lately. Maybe visiting will have cheered him up." After they settled on the bench, Czech tapped her boot against a quilt, hiding a rifle on the floor. She flapped the reins and made a clucking noise behind her teeth. The wagon needed turning to the right to get to the Negro part of Fort Gibson, but mules don't like right, so Czech turned them left and circled wide in the middle of the street. The wagon rode better loaded than empty, and Czech, who normally used a buggy and who was tired deep in her bones, gave silent thanks for the difference. She engaged Cliff in conversation above the clop of the mules. Talk was a good way to find out what he'd been up to, and had the added advantage of occupying her line of vision, reducing the likelihood of anyone calling to her. Clifford was full of things to tell. He could recall minute physical details of any animal, wild or kept. He was focused on roosters that morning, and that was fine with Czech. She listened to a description of green tail feathers sprouting from a leghorn and steered the mules towards a distant group of dark children who were silent and still. They all wore feed-sack shirts, but only the tallest wore pants. The garb wasn't unusual, but that Negro children should be quiet at a distance didn't seem natural to Czech. As she grew nearer, she cocked her head as though that would help her hear words that weren't being said. When the wagon got to within 50 feet of the clump of children, they scattered like buckeyes spilled from a sack. It occurred to Czech they'd used a wiser strategy than the one used by quail, which fly up in the same direction before spreading. She reined in the mules before a row of shacks and looked at each one. There was no perceptible difference. All were unpainted wood.